When the Titanic came to a stop, Captain Smith instructed 4th Officer Joseph Groves Boxhall to determine their position. However, it's evident from records that the navigator miscalculated their location by 12 miles, which turned out to be a critical error. This discrepancy was confirmed by the actual wreckage site of the Titanic. The position provided by Boxall would have placed the Titanic within sight of the Californian. It's unclear if Boxall believed they should have been in that location. Nevertheless, Captain Smith inexplicably ordered the Titanic to move at half speed for an additional 5 minutes before stopping the engines for the final time. It's possible that he was heading towards the ship whose lights were faintly visible on the horizon, assuming it was the Californian. Several survivors mentioned sighting the ship approximately 5 or 6 miles away from the Titanic. Although the Titanic could have easily reached that ship, Smith seemed to believe the other vessel would come to their aid, the one he mistook for the Californian. Let's examine the events that unfolded. The Titanic was immobilized in the water, and the rescue ship, the Californian, was nearby. Messages had been exchanged between Captain Smith and the Californian, indicating the precise location where the Californian was waiting. Captain Smith spotted a stationary ship on the horizon, and based on inaccurate information provided by Officer Boxall, assumed it was the Californian and everything was proceeding as planned. Around midnight, the Titanic began launching distress rockets in red, white, and blue colors. The bridge crew of the Californian also observed the rockets and reported this to Captain Lord. Captain Lord especially inquired about the color of the rockets. It's likely that he expected to see red or blue signals, but his officers consistently reported seeing only white rockets. Consistently, Captain Lord rightly concluded that the rockets were not originating from the Titanic. Survivors recounted that the Titanic's rockets soared several hundred feet into the night sky, exploding with a loud noise. In contrast, the rockets from the ship visible from the Californian only reached the top of its mast. Even from a distance of 4 to 5 miles, the officers on the Californian would have expected to hear a loud report from the rockets, but they heard nothing. It appears highly probable that the ship spotted from the Californian was a wooden sailing bark named the Samson, engaged in illegal seal fishing activities on the ice floes at that time. The white rockets it fired, reaching only mast height, were intended to signal its small rowing boats. Months after the disaster, the captain of the Samson claimed to have also seen a large liner firing rockets, but did not investigate due to its own illegal activities. The Californian's apprentice, Gibson, later testified that he observed only 8 white rockets fired from the ship. On the other hand, the Titanic had launched at least 18, possibly even 22 rockets, including some in red and blue. Titanic survivor Miss Edith Russell stated that the officers reassured everyone, stating that the Californian would rescue them even if they did not return for breakfast. How they could have known it was the Californian is difficult to comprehend, especially in such a dire emergency. It is implausible to believe that they were intentionally allowing lifeboats to depart only partially filled. They were aware that the ship was sinking, and it's highly unlikely that they were that foolish. Instead, they must have been expecting the ship on the horizon to come to their aid. Unfortunately, that ship turned out to be the wrong one. The Californian was actually 19 miles away, where Captain Stanley Lord awaited the sight of colored rockets. At approximately 1 a.m., it likely dawned on Captain Smith the anticipated rescue upon which the survival of so many depended would not materialize. Now, as lifeboats were being launched to full capacity, panic began to set in among the passengers. Second Officer Lightoller, as the most senior surviving officer, received significant attention and publicity for his testimony. However, He was evasive when asked critical questions during both the American and British inquiries, primarily to protect his own reputation and that of the White Star Line. In the British inquiry, he claimed that the Titanic had started turning to port before the lookout was taken down from the closed crow's nest. How he could have known this is unclear, since he claimed to have been in his cabin at the time. Lightoller also stated during the American inquiry that there was no fog 10 minutes prior to the ship colliding with the iceberg, directly contradicting the testimony of the two lookouts. Again, it's unclear how he could have known this if he was in his cabin. He also lied about the number of ice warnings received on the bridge, attempting to convey that the iceberg came as a surprise. "I do not remember any ice warnings being posted on the bridge," he claimed. Moreover, Lightoller, along with second radio operator Harold Bride and ship's baker Charles Joffin, all asserted that they remained in the water for up to an hour after leaving the Titanic. This is clearly impossible, since we know that the sea temperature that night was between 2 and 3 degrees below freezing, with an average expectancy of only 3 to 4 minutes under such conditions. This testimony would not hold up under scrutiny today, and appears to be a fabrication. Just before 5:30 a.m. on that tragic morning, Captain Stanley Lord woke his radio operator only to discover that the Titanic had already sunk. He immediately set off at full speed towards the wreck site, but unfortunately, he arrived too late. The Carpathia had already reached the scene and was in the process of rescuing survivors. Among them was J. Bruce Ismay, who had managed to enter a lifeboat at the last minute. His decision would forever be met with public shame.